Okay, hi everyone. My name is Naomi Lin. I am the Vice President of Project Management for Legal at UCLA, and I will be one of three interviewers today for Miss Christina Stratton. And so we also have Emily and Emma here if they would like to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a second year and I'm the manager of public relations for Legal.
Hi everyone, my name is Emma. I'm also a second year. I am the manager of project management for Legal.
Okay, perfect. So again, we just wanted to thank Christina for her time. We're so excited that she could join us today to talk about her experience as a woman in the legal field. So we're gonna get started now. So Christina, would you like to introduce yourself, say your story on how you got to where you are today?
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Stratton. I'm super excited to be here, so thank you for inviting me. But I just finished my second year of law school at Pepperdine University in Malibu. So I'm local in the area, and I studied psychology in college. That was my major that I chose. I did a lot of undergrad research, and I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to end up originally, but eventually decided on law school, which we'll get into, and decided to stay in the area. So started law school 2 years ago, started sharing my experience online because I'm a first generation law student. So I had no idea what to expect when I started law school and honestly turned to the internet to help me, not to help other people, but because I didn't know what to wear, I didn't know what to expect, and was posting online asking for advice. And I found out that there were a lot of people, a lot like me, who maybe were interested in law school, but didn't know what to expect, didn't see anybody like them, and were looking for somebody like me to just share openly and honestly. So it's been a learning experience for me. I still feel like, I'm balancing between learning and also trying to bring other people along with me and share what I learn at school, whether that's in the classroom or just socially. So it's been really rewarding. And that's kind of the experience that I've had so far and where I'm coming from today.
I'm so excited. So I guess starting off, how did you decide that law school was for you? And did you always know you wanted to go into law?
Yeah, whenever I was young, I was interested in becoming a lawyer when I was young. And I remember telling my grandpa one day, I either want to be a lawyer or a party planner. I wasn't quite sure because there was nobody like me that I saw really that I didn't see any lawyers that I really wanted to be like, and nobody in my family had ever been a lawyer. And so for me, it was, I will either be a lawyer or a party planner, which was what I associated with really my femininity and creativity and kind of the fun job, like what I was really passionate about maybe. And I wasn't sure. I always thought that I would have to choose between having a career that was fun or serious, like a lawyer. And then as I got older, I no longer wanted to be a party planner, but as I got older, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to be because I also didn't want to be a lawyer. So it was actually in one of my sociology classes that I started becoming more seriously interested in attending law school. I had volunteered with CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates, and I knew that helping children in some capacity was important to me. I wanted some job that I could give back, but I wasn't sure what that was going to look like. And in one of my sociology classes, it was sociology of the family. And that's where I really started to realize how much the law shaped every area of our life, starting in childhood, and how much it shaped social inequality. And my entire experience of the world had been shaped by laws that I didn't even know or understand. So that's when I really decided, maybe I'll study for the LSAT. Maybe I will look into becoming a lawyer. And I was really lucky. There was actually a teacher at the local Pure Barre studio in Malibu who she became an instructor during law school. So she would come and teach Pure Barre classes during her lunch break at school. And one time I talked to her and I just said, I may be interested in law school. I'm not quite sure. And she was very receptive to me, told me, I'll take you to lunch, I'll take you to coffee, I'll do whatever I can to help you and just to tell you what I know. And honestly, I think I officially decided that I would take the LSAT when I went and visited her office in Santa Monica. And I was just shocked at this life that she had built for herself as a young woman. She was somebody that I wanted to be like. She did seem like she was happy. And she was working at a boutique law firm in Santa Monica, had this beautiful office, floor to ceiling windows, would ride her bike to work. And I was like, wow, like maybe not everybody who's a lawyer is miserable and boring. Maybe this could be something that I'm interested in. So took the LSAT, and the rest is history. But that's kind of when I officially decided again, was in college.
Now, this leads us perfectly into our next question, actually, which is about your law school experience. So what is your experience at Pepperdine Law School, and how far is law school from how it is portrayed in movies and TV shows?
Yeah. So my experience at Pepperdine has been as great as law school can be. I don't think that it's that different from how it's portrayed in TV and in movies. And I joke because during our law school orientation, multiple presenters showed clips of Legally Blonde, probably not knowing that somebody else had already done that. But it's really not that different. Obviously, I think, in TV and movies, it's dramatized, but I don't think it's that different. However, what is different and is I think like what's difficult about law school for me, at least, it's not the academic aspect of it, but it's the social and environmental aspect of it. Because law school is just so competitive. And so all of you girls, I'm sure, do great in school. You go to a great university, but since kindergarten, we've had teachers saying, oh, in first grade, this isn't going to slide. In middle school, it's not going to slide. In high school, our teachers have been scaring us for this next level up since we've been younger. And every time we've all adjusted, we've all succeeded. But I think the difficult part in law school is just the environment, because at least for me, that was the first time that in every single class, I was being graded against my peers. So it's not about how much of the content you can learn. It's about how many people you could do better than. And so that's just an adjustment that you have to make. And I think a lot of times from the outside, when people talk about how competitive law school is, it's on a macro level. Like on a micro level, I have plenty of friends, and my friends and I are not really competitive with each other at all. I want my friends to succeed, and I trust that if I need help on a study guide or if I have a question in class, my friends are ready to help me. It's more on a macro level because everybody understands that they have to do better than you, essentially. And so it's just that was an adjustment for me to make, because it's just like unspoken competition always.
So you talk about this competitive environment that you have in law school.
Mhm.
What is the workload like, or like, are there any specific like resources or professors there to like help sort of things that like help you
Yeah.
get through law school?
Mm-hmm. So I've been really lucky that like part of the reason why I chose to attend Pepperdine again is because in undergrad, I had such a great experience with having a relationship with my professors. And I thought that was something that was really important to me. So I think definitely keep that in mind when you're looking at law schools, is where you might be able to get that interaction with professors. In my experience, my professors are very willing and excited to help you because they want you to succeed. But sorry, about competition. Can you ask the question again in addition to workload and resources? Sorry, thinking out loud right now. Yes, but that is one great thing, especially your first year of law school, because most schools like across the country, you take similar, if not the same classes your first year. And so there's a lot of resources online, and there's like websites. I loved Quimby, which is like, I forget what the equivalent is during undergrad, but like a study guide website. And there's little like short videos and summaries. And I really utilized those. So there's a lot of resources out there. And I think I always say like work smarter, not harder. So definitely I lean on online resources. And that's one really good thing about the more core classes, is they're the same no matter what. So like during undergrad, when I had classes like sociology or like a biology class, what you might learn at one university would be a lot different from what you're going to learn at the next. But in law school, like there's the law is pretty much the same no matter where you go. So that is one good thing, is the resources are pretty uniform.
This question like kind of relates, I guess, but like what is the most challenging thing so far that like you faced in law school, and like what have you done to overcome it?
Yeah, I think, yeah, just like the environment. I always say law school is a lot like getting your wisdom teeth out. And I say that because when it was time for me to get my wisdom teeth out, and at one of my consults, I was telling my dentist how worried I was. And I was like just deathly afraid to get my wisdom teeth out. And he told me, he was like, Christina, stop Googling it. Stop looking online and looking at people's stories or what to do, because you're only going to see negative experiences. Like people only talk about complications with getting their wisdom teeth out. And I think law school is a lot the same. Like nobody wants to go to law school, but you just kind of have to do it. But also, nobody talks about the good parts of law school because it's not as impressive. And so it's a lot easier if you're going to tell somebody, if you're going to ask a professional about law school, it's more self-serving for me to sit here and tell you how difficult it is and how challenging it is and how tough I am and how intelligent I am for having to survive it, versus me telling you, oh, it's so easy, you can do it. And so I think like for me, trying to like toe the line between not falling into these like gatekeepy habits of telling everybody how terrible law school is, which was a real turnoff for me when I was asking people, should I go to law school? A lot of people were telling me how terrible it was and never to do it, a lot like wisdom teeth. And so I've tried really hard not to be that person, but there's also times when it is really challenging. And when I do, absolutely feel like kicking and screaming before I go into the building. Like there's some days that I just do not want to do it and it's hard. And so I think that's the difficult part for me, is just like, where's the line between being grateful for this experience that nobody else in my family has had and being grateful for how much I'm learning, but also recognizing how challenging it is because it's difficult, and figuring out also like where I can turn to for support.
Yeah, definitely. So you talked about how, you love Pepperdine Law School, but you also talked about how it's super challenging, which is really understandable, for a law degree. So if you had to explain your law school experience in 3 words, what would they be and why?
I think unpredictable, rewarding, and unpredictable, rewarding. And I guess mine would be pretty unique because I've gotten to get to do everything that I do online. But I think the unpredictable part is definitely true of most people that I know in law school. Like we have this idea of what we expect law school to look like. And you really just never know what the next year is going to bring, what job you might think. Most of my friends who thought they knew what they wanted to do going into law school have changed their mind, have decided that's not for them for one reason or the other. And then I think rewarding because it is really special. This semester, I got to participate in a clinic and actually take on clients of my own. And that was a really, really rewarding experience for me because I think the first year of school, it just feels like memorization. You don't really get to apply what you're learning. And so this semester, when I finally got to meet clients and speak to them one-on-one, it was really the first time that I realized like, wow, I'm actually learning something. I actually can help people. And it's in those moments when you realize like how valuable education really is.
Thank you so much for your answers. So you've come this far in law school already, and you know what you know now, but if you were an undergrad, what do you wish you could have known to prepare, or what do you want to bestow on us as undergrads as like suggestions or advice?
Yeah, I think one thing that I wish that I would have done earlier in undergrad is accept help and ask for help, whether that's from professors or from family or from classmates. Like, especially law school, like there's a lot of, in just being women and being high achievers, there's a lot of pressure on us to feel like we can do it all on our own and we're confident and independent, and that those are all great qualities to have. but asking for help doesn't take away from any of that. And I've had to learn, if a professor offers to connect you with somebody, if a friend, a family friend tells you, oh, I know somebody in law school who wants to take you to lunch, or, if somebody offers you these things, to say yes, to not be afraid to take them up on these opportunities. And that's something that I've had to learn slowly. But even like I was sharing earlier, that one of the final things that made me actually say yes to going to law school was when the fitness instructor offered to take me to lunch. And I think at first she had probably offered that to me 1,000 times. And I was just kind of like, like, didn't want to take her up on that. But it made her feel special that I wanted her help too, if that makes sense. So it's also like, if somebody wouldn't offer to help you if they didn't mean it. So I think it's really important and a sign of maturity when you are able to ask for help and to accept the help that's offered.
I really like how you say like to always ask for help, because sometimes I feel like you're scared to ask for help, especially like, well, in my classes, I'm like a busy econ major and it's like mostly guys. And I'm like one of the few girls, and you're like, should I be the one asking a question, especially when it's like mostly male professors too. But yeah, I really like that. This question kind of also relates to like one thing you wish you knew. Like, we all have to like take the LSAT. Do you have any advice for like studying for the LSAT? Any tips?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to echo what you're saying. Like, yes, asking for help definitely is, I think, is gendered and it's very frustrating. So yeah, I agree. But with the LSAT, I think one of the most important things is just practicing. Like, the LSAT is a learned skill and it's something that you do get better at the more that you practice. So if you're used to things coming easy to you, when you first take the LSAT, like a diagnostic test, you'll probably be like, I thought I was going to get a higher score the first time I took it. I'm used to things like coming easy to me. And you'll think that, at least I did. I thought, oh, maybe most people need 3 months to study, but they're not me. I can do it in a month. No, I also did take the, recommended 2-3 months, however much it is. But just really staying focused and staying dedicated, because it's really tempting. Like, there's a steep learning curve. So at first you're going to be trying to practice the LSAT and your score is not going to be improving and you're going to be really frustrated. But then soon your score will start increasing. So just stick with it. And I think, yeah, just being patient with yourself and giving yourself the time to actually prepare. Like, it's just a test that you do have to learn how to take it. Like, a lot of my friends who started studying for the LSAT gave up because they weren't seeing the progress they wanted, or probably didn't think that they would actually have to put the time in, but you really do. And I recommend doing that, because I think it's a really easy way for schools to compare. It's the easiest way, the laziest way for schools to compare two students. If you're comparing two students' GPAs in terms of like a scholarship, there's just so many other variables, where they went to school, what they studied, different factors. But the LSAT really is like, it's easier to compare two students' LSAT scores. So I think that it's important for like whether that's for good or bad, like I do think it's important that you do the best that you can and put the time in. So I studied over the summer. Some of my friends had done it during the school year, but that's just the way I did it, was during the summer. And if you can figure out how to do like a prep class, I really do recommend it, because like I said, like, I think that my LSAT score is a big reason that I have the scholarship that I do. So I'm glad that I was able to make the investment in like LSAT prep materials. So yeah, try to figure out, if you can, what resources are available to you to get LSAT help.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're at the stage in our undergrad career where like some of my friends who are also pre-law are thinking about taking the LSATs, or like have already booked their tests, and it's a scary time, but definitely like thinking about it and like trying to find resources and practicing is really important. Kind of taking a different turn now. I know you studied abroad in London, I think, during your law school time. So how was that experience, and why did you decide to study abroad, in law school?
Yeah. So it's just, Pepperdine is very proud of their abroad experiences, and they have a campus in London. So it was pretty easy for me. Like, it was through my university. So I didn't have to like enroll in another school or try to transfer credits or anything. But I'm very glad that I did it. It for me, like broke up the monotony of law school, especially going to the same university for like, it will be 7 years straight from undergrad into law school. So I'm glad that I did it. It also was a great way to like have a new sense of community because I was with other Pepperdine students. And so I think it was like, it was just very enriching for me as opposed to, because during your 1L year at my school and at most schools, you're assigned a section and you go from class to class, much like kindergarten, with your peers to every single class. So that's how it was my first year of school last year. And then my second year, it wouldn't have been like that. However, I was in London. And so there was just a smaller group of students who were there. So I had like another little built-in community. And I think those little social networks are really important, especially, you know, speaking about how competitive and how negative the experience can sometimes feel in law school. So it was good for me in that sense. But also just like on a global sense, it was really interesting to compare the American legal system to other countries. And I think I was able to have more of a critical eye in deciding like what parts of our system are working and not working. So that was really neat for me. I don't think that I would have had as much time, or at least I probably wouldn't have enrolled in as many of those classes if I would have stayed in the US, but because I was abroad, I got to take more like comparative classes, more arbitration classes, and learning about, just comparing America to other countries.
That sounds so fun. I wanted to study abroad, but then our program is like low-key kind of expensive, and I was like, wait, okay, this isn't worth it. But that sounds like super refreshing. I hope one day I can also have a chance to experience that. But we're gonna turn now to like female in law specific questions. As someone who's going through law school and you're entering an industry that is predominantly run by men, how do you stay confident and focused in achieving your goals?
Yeah. You know, like being a woman in law school, it shapes so many, like it shapes just my entire experience of school, and sometimes in ways that I'm not even aware of. I think the most like recent example that I have was last week. I showed up to one of my finals and I didn't realize that of course I didn't realize my laptop wasn't working. Okay. So I had to handwrite one of my timed essay exams. And I was mortified, but I was trying not to panic. Right. So I'm just sitting there like handwriting this exam, hoping for the best. And halfway through, I realized that on this handwritten exam, I've been highlighting things in pink and my handwriting was like curvy. And I was like, oh no, it's so clearly written by a girl, this exam. And I started panicking. And it's not because I think that my professor is sexist, but I also don't think that I am either. And the first thing, like my first thought when I realized how much it was written by a girl was like, this would be a lot more impressive if it looked like a man wrote it. Like I immediately put the pink highlighter away, tried to like get a new one and tried to start writing in like messier handwriting. And then I'm like in the middle of the exam having this like identity crisis because I was honestly upset with myself that I thought that it would be more impressive if a man wrote it. But I think the reality is like societally, we don't think women are dumb. If anything, like we expect more from women. Like we expect women to have these perfectly well thought out thoughts and great analysis and clean, perfect handwriting. And like truly, if a man had written what I wrote, I would have been more impressed by it because I think I have lower expectations for them. And that was really difficult for me to realize. So I think just in law school, those feelings have come to the forefront in ways that they didn't as much during undergrad. And it's more implicit. It's like, you know, sometimes when I post on the internet, one time I posted that I was going to a dinner and somebody commented like, oh, you know, that's a really great outfit, but I recommend wearing closed-toed shoes next time, which I asked people on the internet for their advice. But the fact that like I couldn't show my big toe was mind-boggling to me. And so there's just so many different considerations that men just don't have to think about what kind of shoes to wear, what their handwriting is like. And yeah, I guess like how I deal with it is just remembering and trying to remind myself that hopefully like at some point, like we're making it easier for the women that come behind us, because we're lucky to live in a time that, at least at my school, it's actually over 50% women. Like, women are in the majority at my school. Like, that's not the problem. The problem is just like, these biases that we have. And I think that, yeah, I don't know. I could talk forever. I'm not even sure what the right like response is, but yeah, it shapes my entire experience. And yeah. Next, ask a question. Sorry, I kind of started rambling. I apologize.
No, yeah, I really,
Said a lot
that was
about-
like, no, that was like, I never thought about that. Like, sometimes I do like think about things that I'm like, yeah, like a guy probably wouldn't think about this before like asking it in a class. But this kind of relates more to like, I know on TikTok you talk a lot about like maybe like wanting to pursue non-traditional careers, like other than like becoming a lawyer, like but using your law degree. So I was wondering, like, do you have other careers in mind that your law degree could help you achieve?
Yeah, I do. So, I'm very entrepreneurial. Eventually, I would love to like have my own brand, have my own business. So, I think having a law degree would help me to do that. But there's some other jobs that another job that comes to mind is like a talent manager or a talent agent. Sports agents have law degrees. A lot of people who work in HR have law degrees. People who work in finance, like there's a new kind of a trend in the industry of using a law degree almost like an MBA, and to use it in more business endeavors and not just for working in a law firm. And that's something that really interests me. So I'm not sure, eventually down the road, that's something that I would love to do. Another job that I've talked about online is being a legal analyst. So like, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Savannah Guthrie, the host of the Today Show, but a lot of people don't know that she is a lawyer, and that's how she got her position on the news. So I think there's like a big gap in the legal industry between like, people who are making, not the legal industry, just society in general, between the people who are making the laws and the people who are the most impacted by the laws. And a lot of the people who are so impacted by like social inequality and the laws that are being made don't even know what they're voting for, don't even know what the law is, or don't even know what resources are available to them. And so I think being a legal analyst on the news, or in some capacity, like being a sort of educator and a sort of connector between somebody who like understands the law and can break down the legal jargon and help explain that to people, that's something that really is interesting to me, and something that I'd love to use social media for. Right now, there's a lot of barriers because I'm not a lawyer, so I cannot get online and talk about the law very much. But once I am, and once I can kind of do that and be qualified to do that, that's something that I'd like to do, is help share just online and like more free resources and guidance.
No, yeah, definitely. It's super important to kind of get to know all the other career options that are available to people who get law degrees, because obviously, like, a lot of people go to law school because, they want to be lawyers, but that's also because we don't know what other things we can be or what else we can do. And so, like, personally, I would love to learn about the other things or pathways that are available to me. And I know I want to go to law school. I kind of want to, I don't know if I want to be a lawyer. I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation. But now we're gonna kind of turn it over to your TikTok and social media following. Obviously, you have a huge following on TikTok and Instagram and a bunch of other platforms. And so, how do you balance your law studies with creating content for TikTok and other social media platforms?
Yeah. There's been a learning curve, and I'm kind of learning as I go. I always joke that in a lot of ways I like started 2 new seasons of my life at the same time, because I started posting online when I started school. So both of these areas are new to me. But one thing is just prioritizing kind of changes depending on the season that I'm in. So towards the beginning of the semester, I'm able to take more time posting online. I'm able to take more time making content, versus towards the end of the semester, I have to focus more on school, because in law school, at least at mine, 100% of your grade is based on the final. So towards the beginning of the semester, if you're not reading that closely, it's not that big of a deal. So I can take more time to do the fun stuff, versus at the end, that's when I really have to buckle down. And now I'm lucky I have a talent manager. And so she is the best. And she's really helped provide a lot of support in terms of like taking care of the clerical work and the logistical stuff, so that I can just handle the creative and the fun stuff. And she does all the extra. And so that's really helpful. But yeah, I'd say just in terms of prioritizing, it really comes down to the beginning of like kind of weaning myself off all of the fun stuff that I start at the beginning of the semester. So slowly as the semester goes on, I have to post a little less, maybe take a little less time with my family, a little less time doing self-care. I still try to keep up a very minimum level of all of those things, but towards the beginning, I kind of start off with more, and like a curve, go off slowly.
I guess following up with that last question, our next one is, how do you plan on using your TikTok and social media platforms as a future law student and when you eventually enter into a legal profession?
Yeah. I'm not sure the exact how I will use it entirely, but I think as an industry in general, like lawyers a lot of times can become so focused on like the black and white non-creative parts of the job, which is great, that like I can use my social media as a networking tool, as a marketing tool, as a sales tool. Like I think there's a lot of ways that I can use it to support me in a career. However, there's also ways that I can use it just to like help the world and share causes that I'm passionate about. So yeah, we'll see. I'm not exactly sure, but I think just in terms of like reach, I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to just connect with students, with professionals alike. And I want to continue doing that no matter where it takes me.
This question kind of, I guess, doesn't relate to what we're talking about, but this is more about like networking with professors and securing like recommendation letters. How would you go about doing that?
That's a good question. I would say like first and foremost, one way that I've done it is like you have to kind of like ease your way into it. So a lot of times it's just asking questions in class and then asking a question after class and seeing which professor is the most receptive to it. Also asking older students or like students who are, further along in law school. I always say older because that's how it is in undergrad, but in law school, people take time off in between. So it's not always older. But yeah, asking students who are ahead of you, which professors they like the most, which professors they have connections with. And that's something that I've learned to lean into. One of my friends has helped introduce me to professors before. And also you can look online and see what professors have research published that's in areas that interest you. And that can be a good guide about which professors you might have more questions for or which professors you might have connections to. One of my professors in particular has a lot of research published honestly about like in the influencer economy. And that was one way that I was able to connect with her, was just asking questions. And at first, not even telling her anything that I myself was an influencer, but just learning what she knew and learning her perspective and kind of gauging to see if she would even be receptive to that. But yeah, in my experience, professors want to help you. Like at least at Pepperdine, like I think really value the students, and like they become professors because they care about students and because they want to be a resource to you. So use them.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna ask you we have some questions in the chat. So I'm gonna read a few of those out, and then in the last 15 minutes, we're gonna let the people who are here have a chance to ask you a few questions as well. So from the chat, Nor asked, do you ever feel judged by your peers or for embracing femininity and not clinging to traditional standards of the law environment? And if you do get judged by that, like, how do you deal with this judgment?
Yeah, I think I have had like a really unique opportunity because of TikTok and because a lot of my peers have seen what I'm doing. Like they kind of just get it. So I think that in like a really backwards way, it's actually really helped me to become more accepted by my peers. Like the fact that I've really embraced it, they kind of get it for the most part. So I'm lucky that my classmates are really supportive of me. And I'm also like a lot of my followers have really helped that happen because they have sent it to my peers. They've been like, oh, you go to Pepperdine, do you know this girl? And so I didn't have to tell my friends. They just kind of figured it out on their own. So for the most part, I've really been accepted by my peers. Yeah, I wish I had more insight to offer, but yeah, I think that, in law school, at least in my experience, I think I felt more pushback in college than I did in law school. Because in law school, I think there's just like another level of maturity, at least amongst the students, that for the most part, they get it. It's not a perfect system under any circumstances, but it was easier than I thought.
Okay, great. There's a lot of questions in the chat, so we're gonna try to get through as many as we can.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask them if they would like to unmute and ask you themselves. And
Okay.
if they say no, then I'll read it out loud. But would Gina like to
Okay.
unmute and ask her question?
Hi, yeah, sure. So I actually had two questions. One is pretty short, I think, but I was just curious what type of law that you're mainly interested in pursuing.
Mhm.
And then my second question was, do you have any tips on how to cope with the stress of law school that might, not be so obvious?
Yeah. Okay. So first, right now, my answer on what area of law kind of changes as I go, but right now I'm the most interested in intellectual property. I didn't really understand what it was before I started. Everybody told me I would like it, and I thought that they meant, oh, because I don't know, I didn't quite get it. Intellectual property is things like trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, patents. And in my opinion, it's a lot of the things that women who are interested in business, in marketing, in communications, it's a lot of kind of these more feminine skills are kind of encapsulated in all of these intellectual property concepts, and it's very entrepreneurial. So that's an area of law that really interests me. I see it every day, even in just doing like my lash extensions. I use this little like lash tool to clasp my fake lashes on my eyes. And I noticed on the package it says patent pending. And I was like, oh, and I'm able to think about these things now. And I think it encapsulates a lot of the fashion and beauty industries. So that's an area that interests me. I see a question right now popping up about without engineering background. I'm just going to answer it because yes, you need a science background in order to do patent law, but not to do the other areas. So yes, you can. And then the next question about coping with stress. I think one area that I'm still not doing, I always can improve, but is exercise. And it sounds silly, but sometimes like I grew up dancing. And so moving my body really helps me so much. So I go to fitness classes that make me happy. Maybe they might not be like the most challenging, but ones that just help me release endorphins, and just taking the time to take care of yourself, things that are luxuries, making sure you make time for them, whether that's like a facial or getting your nails done. Like these little things of self-care, I think go a really long way in law school.
I really like how, like, in law school, you've been able to explore too, because right now I obviously don't know what type of law I want to do. So, like, that's reassuring that when you're in law school, like, that's where you're going to explore it and find out, like, what you're really interested in. I guess we can call on, does Darling want to share her question?
Hi.
Darling?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Sorry, took me a second. Sorry, let me fix myself. Oh, that's right. My question is, how does the day-to-day life as a law student look like for you, and how do you balance work with your personal life?
Yeah, I think day to day in law school looks a lot, honestly, like it does in college. Like it's kind of what you make of it. I wake up, I stop and buy myself a coffee way too often, but again, I've had to just tell myself some things are self-care and some things are cheaper than therapy. I'm like, if this is part of my schedule that makes me happy, I'm just going to do it and I will deal with the consequences later. So I normally stop and get my coffee. I go to class. Normally am reviewing videos or like skimming the readings before I go in. Go to class. I always take a lunch break. I just need the brain break. I can't work through lunch. Some people can. Come back to school for more classes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Normally, I prefer to study at home versus in the library. When I'm feeling my best, we'll go to a workout class and do my thing. But normally I do like work and social media stuff after class as like a break before I study and prepare for the next day. But I think the workload in terms of like reading and prepping for class, again, it's kind of like how much you want to put into it. There are definitely days when I do not open my book before the next day, but there's days when I like, especially during your first year when you're trying to learn how much work it really takes. So it kind of depends on the class and depends on what kind of learner you are, but I'm able to really learn in class. So it's more effective use of my time to actually be paying attention in class versus some of my friends probably read closer than they pay attention to in class. Does that make sense? Like it's just kind of how you learn the material and how you can memorize and comprehend.
Yeah, thank you. The next question kind of is related to what you just talked about. So, Jasmine, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Um, Thank you so much for being here and talking with us. So my question is, how do you manage your work-life balance and deal with things that may come up and like anxiety and things like that?
Yeah. So I think again, it just depends on like the part of the semester that we're in. But now, especially being in my second year, I think one of the things is just working smarter, not harder. Like there's a lot of noise in law school and a lot of people who act like they're working 12 hours a day. And the reality is like no one is working as hard as they act like they are. And I don't mean that in like a hateful way. I just mean it as like you have to stay realistic. And so I think just putting your horse blinders on and not paying attention to the people in other lanes and just paying attention to your lane and doing the best that you can and not being too hard on yourself is the most important. Like there's days when I feel like I got nothing done today, but I did, and beating myself up over my lack of productivity just wastes more time instead of just calling it a day and saying, okay, I'm going to restart tomorrow. And so I think just kind of going easy on yourself and trying really hard not to compare yourself to how much people are acting like they're doing, because they're probably not doing it that much.
Our
Thank
next
you for
question
your
is from, sorry. Our next question is from Stephanie, if Stephanie wants to unmute.
Yeah, of course. Hi everyone. Hi Christina. I'm a huge fan of your TikTok. My question is what your advice is basically for graduating seniors like myself who still aren't quite sure if law school is the right fit for them, because I do currently work in the legal field as a legal assistant and I do enjoy my work. I do see myself in everything law related, but the whole like daunting 4 years or 3 years of law school is kind of putting me off, and I'm just burnt out from undergrad as is. So I'm just trying to see all of the right options for myself. So yeah, what your advice would be for someone like in my shoes?
Yeah. First of all, I think it's really mature that you're able to identify that you're burnt out, because I went straight from straight from college into law school. And I think that that's just an added challenge that not a lot of my peers have because they had time in between to kind of regroup. So don't put pressure on yourself to go straight through. But I think something that helped me when I wasn't quite sure was honestly studying for the LSAT and taking it and seeing how I did. And that was something that, like, it seemed too daunting to commit to going to 3 years of law school. And it seemed like a smaller commitment to just tell myself, well, I'll take the LSAT and I'll see how it goes. And then once I took the LSAT, well, I'll apply and I'll see how it goes. And then once I got, acceptances back, well, I guess now is the time that I actually have to start school. And so I think breaking it down into little pieces like that can be helpful if you're interested in. But also, I'm not sure if you heard in the beginning about my analogy that law school is like getting your wisdom teeth out, but just reminding yourself that, it is daunting, but it's nothing that you can't handle. It's nothing that you've never handled before. You've handled the leveling up to go to high school and the leveling up to go to college. Like, you can handle law school. So yeah, good luck. Is your response to good. I'm glad that you can relate. But yeah, and also I think, again, not to be a skeptic, but being careful who you listen to advice from. That's something that I wish that I'm still learning at 24 years old, is like how many people I let into my heart and seeing my dreams and my goals, because not everybody is going to be supportive of them and not everybody is going to believe in them. And so being careful who you're asking for advice from and like listening to yourself and your own heart.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your advice.
Yeah, of course.
Would Regine like to share her question next?
Hi, yeah, I can go ahead. First of all, Christina, thank you again so much for coming. My question was more so about TikTok and like your experience with that. It's kind of like a double-edged question. So I wanted to ask if TikTok helped you in terms of like funding your law school education, and if there's any other ways like TikTok has helped you with your law career. And also, do you ever get worried about potential clients finding your TikTok and questioning your professionalism? And I'm just asking because I also have a TikTok and it's something I want to continue to pursue even in law school.
Yeah.
And that is something that I have worried about for sure.
Yeah. So first, yes, it has definitely helped fund my law school. And it's something that, I always relate to Taylor Swift, the man. I don't remember what the exact lyric is right now, and it probably has a curse word in it too. But when she talks about like, she can't flash dollars or whatever, that's how I feel. Like as women, I feel like I'm not supposed to talk about the fact that social media is actually making me money. And a lot of people think that it's just a hobby, but yes, it has absolutely helped me in law school. And it was such a blessing because I thought that in law school, I wouldn't be able to make any money. So it's been fun. It's like rewarding and fun for me, but also a way that supports me. Yes. And I think in terms of being worried about like clients and professors and everything else, yeah, it's a constant battle because in normal life, we can present different versions of ourselves based on the environment that we're in. Like I'm always myself, but like I'm a different version of myself when I'm with my grandma versus when I'm with my friends versus when I'm with my professors. And online, I don't have that luxury. I just have to have one version of myself. So it's something that I've really had to balance. And one time, one of my professors was even telling me, oh, my daughter was looking at your videos. I was like, oh no, how old's your daughter? Like, I like had this moment where I had to reflect and be like, I guess everything that I post is okay for your daughter to see. And so I think, yeah, just like I've had to figure out, like, I've just had to own this entire version of like, I've had to own every part of myself and just be confident in who I am and know that there's nothing about me. I think, at least right now, I'm like, even right now, I'm like reflecting, I'm like, what's on my page? What should I be worried about? And I think the most maybe non-professional, the most challenging, the biggest obstacle, I guess, would be maybe that I talk about my mental health online. And I've had to just kind of come to terms with the fact, like, if other people can't accept the fact that I struggle with my mental health, if other people think less of me because I talk openly about having anxiety or talk openly about wanting to wear pink, then maybe those people aren't the people that I want to work with. Maybe those aren't the clients that I would want to have. So I think as long as you are being the best version of yourself and are really being true to yourself and your own values, then there's nothing to worry about. But the hard part is figuring out really who you are. So I think that's kind of a challenging answer, but yeah. So that's one I have.
Awesome. So the next question is from Carolina, and she was wondering, what did you do to prepare for law school admissions, and what advice would you give current undergraduate students who are preparing to apply to law school?
I think sectioning, like really compartmentalizing the law school application process. So first, like investing in relationships with your professors and figuring out, like just always in the back of your head, kind of fostering these relationships with professors that might be able to write recommendations. And then it becomes like just studying for the LSAT. And then I did not worry about essays. I did not worry about anything else until after the LSAT was done. And then once the LSAT was done, I worked on my essays. And I really worked on my essays. Like I spent a lot of time writing and rewriting and perfecting my essays. And yeah, so I think, like I said, just like sectioning it out instead of trying to tackle it all at once. And the minute that I finished the LSAT, I also contacted my professors so that they had plenty of time to write me recommendation letters. And I think that probably the fact that I had relationships with these professors really helped my applications because my professors knew who I was. They knew my values. They knew what I had done. If I'm remembering correctly, I probably sent them resumes of things that I'd done during college so that they could include those in the letters. But also like narrowing it down about which schools you want to attend the most. That was a mistake. Like, you know, luckily by now everyone's made it through the college admissions process. But I think for college admissions, I probably like threw out a wider net, not knowing exactly what schools I wanted to go to, but just kind of throwing applications at a wall. Versus in law school, I was more like focused more narrowly. So that'd be my advice. And then also though, prioritizing your applications because law school applications are on a rolling basis. And so sending out the schools that you're most serious about towards the beginning, and then working, you're kind of working your way down the list.
It's great that you mentioned essays, letters of rec, because our next question is also about that too, if Sophia wants to unmute. Sophia Krikorian?
Oh, sorry. So my question was, what do law schools look for in an applicant, and what should I be looking for in a law school as well?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I think law schools, like I think in applicants, increasingly law schools are looking for well-rounded applicants and applicants who have something to offer the school. So I think they value that in what you've done to give back and to invest in your university, what you've done on campus, how you've really grown as a person in college. And I think a lot of people are nervous about not having, I didn't have any work experience when I applied to law school. So a lot of you, presumably, if you're already starting to think about law school during undergrad, I'm presuming that you're not going to be taking a lot of time in between law school, in between college and law school. I don't think that's something to be nervous about. I don't think it affected my applications in any way because I had done different things during undergrad. Something that I'm proud that I did during undergrad is I think that I really did a few things well. I think that you don't have to have things that are traditionally related to law on your application or on your resume. Like some of the things that I did is I planned a campus fundraiser for CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates. I was a campus news anchor, and I was just like, there's different things that you can do. And as long as you can relate it to the law, there's no questions being asked. So you don't need to really, like if mock trial is not your thing, it wasn't mine either. If model United Nations isn't your thing, don't just join it because you think you need to do it for law school. Do things that you're passionate about, that interest you, that you can really authentically talk about why those things excited you, and the schools will value that no differently than they would value more traditional legal experiences. Oh, and then what you're looking for in a law school. That's a tough question because, essentially when I was deciding, I think the factors that became the most important to me were access to my professors and then scholarships. Like, I candidly chose the school that I had the biggest scholarship at, because I wasn't quite, just because I knew that I wanted to have some sort of like more non-traditional legal career. I felt like I wanted to have the freedom of not being worried about paying off a lot of student debt. And so for me, it was very attractive to be able to pick a career without the pressure of, this big financial burden that I had to pay off. I could really just do what I'm most passionate about. So that's what I chose. But I think, figure out what's most important to you. I don't know what your values are in a law school, whether that's, if you are really, really confident about what you want to do, then maybe you can consider what schools have the best resources for that. But I wasn't. So instead, I went for other factors. You're welcome.
I actually had like a question. It goes back to when you were talking about like the schools you like more to apply earlier, because you hear back from them. So like, how does it work when you like, I guess if you just get like an acceptance letter, do you only have like a certain amount of time to say like, oh, I'm coming, or like how does that work?
Yeah. To be honest, that's a good question because I don't even remember looking back, but I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure that once you get a response, you don't have to accept it any earlier than you would at other schools, if that makes sense. Like, you get all your acceptances back, and then I think every school has like the same deposit deadline. So yeah, sorry, I wish that I had more answers, but I don't. So the sooner you apply, the sooner that you potentially might get an acceptance letter back. But I think that most of the schools are on the relatively same schedule in terms of when your deposit is due. And then similar to college, there's kind of like a lot of people put deposits down at a lot of schools. And so then there's even that obstacle too. But yeah, the real benefit in applying early is just that statistically, there's more spots available to you the earlier that you apply.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll just make sure to apply early for the schools I really like.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing everything you have so far with us. We like to end off all our interviews with this very important and special question. Are there any last words of advice or wisdom that you would like to impart to our undergraduate students pursuing law today, specifically legal, so, girls and female focused?
Yeah. I think the most important thing that I always try to remember as a woman is that you don't have to choose. So you don't have to choose between a career that, my goal is that I won't have to choose a career. I won't have to choose between a career and having a family, and then I can do both. And, there's a lot of pressure as women, but trying really hard to stay true to yourself and not to succumb to all of the pressures to harden yourself and to become, hardened and more fierce, that you can cling to your femininity and to who you are and to the jobs that you want, and also be taken seriously. So there's a lot of pressure, but my hope is that I can make it easier for other people. And I think that it's like a domino effect. So all of us have part in that.
Well, thank you so much, Christina, for your time. This interview has just been so awesome and so helpful. And thank you so much to everyone who showed up and asked questions. And so, this is going to be the end of our interview now. So we're actually doing a giveaway. So we're gonna people who entered the raffle, we're gonna spin a wheel later.
Yay, thank you guys for having me too. I really appreciated it. And I feel like I wasn't saying you're welcome to a lot of the messages because I was overwhelmed and trying to listen to the next questions, but thank you guys for having me. It was really special to get to talk to you guys. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Christina, so much. We really appreciated you speaking with us today.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye, guys. I'm heading out.
Bye.
I'm gonna run, but thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So now